So there was a lot going on in the latest chapter of One Piece 995. A lot going on from beginning to end. For today's video, of course, based on the title, we'll be focusing on the beginning of the chapter because Marco versus Big Mom versus Marco, whatever's gonna be on the side later on. This, I think, we can learn a lot from, at least in terms of what is more likely. Maybe not guaranteed, but I am strongly, people know, I am strongly in the Yonko camp when it comes to power. For me, the Yonko are probably the strongest people on the planet, with maybe the exception of A, the Gorosei, maybe, and then B, which is a mega maybe, Im-sama. Like, Im-sama could be the Kaguya of One Piece. It's possible. I'm not necessarily against it. Maybe Jorba comes back and he's absolutely studly. Like he's a goddamn Dragon Ball Z character flying around blowing up planets. I have no idea. We have to wait and see. But for today's video, Big Mom versus Marco. And this is the second time that Big Mom has fought against a opposing enemy, if you would, commander. So it's been 2 times now. We have 2 cases where we can actually view Big Mom's power in terms of people that would, let's say, be in place of her own sweet commanders. So Katakuri, Cracker, and Smoothie. Now what we saw in the chapter, I would argue, was for the most part domination. Help me! Oh my God! Big Mom once again being the warrior that she is. It's like when Big Mom is on point, she's fantastic. But so many times she's so incompetent, or her memory starts to give way, or whatever the hell wants to do with Big Mom, and it's like, no. But when Big Mom is at her best, she is truly a force to behold. Now, Big Mom, I think, once again, is superior in this fight, clearly. Prometheus loses out to Marco, and it's possible, it's hard to tell honestly based on the actual paneling and based on the imagery, but maybe Big Mom kind of punched in that fire, like she actually had used Prometheus as a punch, or like some kind of shield, or maybe Prometheus himself actually dropped in there in front of Big Mom. It's unclear honestly. But the whole thing here is that when it comes to Prometheus levels of fire, if you would, they can't stand up to Marco's Phoenix fire. So in my mind, I'm thinking about, let's say, an inverted Amaterasu, where it's like a holy-ish type of fire, where his fire just naturally beats out other various forms of fire because he's Phoenix fire, because they have quote-unquote unique properties. So from here, we look at Marco, I would argue, again, getting dominated. Yeah, she involved Perospero in this engagement too, but at the same time, it wasn't like she couldn't handle Marco, but more so, she was so focused on getting back to the battle that she just didn't want to deal with Marco and his abilities at this point in time. That's what I gathered. But we'll get more to those details later on. Marco is a good flag post on gauging power, I think, in One Piece, because he's one of the few folks that was there during Marineford War, and we can kind of gauge how Marco performs with other folks in this battle, and look at how he performed in Marineford War. And of course, I'm talking about the one and only Admiral Kizaru. Kizaru, at no point in time did he ever dominate Marco in Marineford War. At no point in time did Kizaru ever dominate, like full on just... That never happened with Marco and Kizaru. Now quickly, of course, we all know the clash between Marco and Kizaru, and how Marco took the attack, and he kicked Kizaru, and then you're a liar, and then we see them next time when he's actually running towards Whitebeard after his heart attack, and then Kizaru lasers him twice, and then Marco pushes on after stumbling for a second to recover from that wound, and then in comes Vice Admiral with the ability of the spider, like the weird 6-hand things, and he puts Kaoseki on Marco's hands, and then Kizaru lays him out. I think it's heavily implied that Marco and Kizaru were fighting for a period of time during Marineford War at times, because we do see Marco do other things, we see Kizaru do other things. But around the time of Whitebeard's heart attack, it appears in the panels of chapter 568, it appears that Marco and Kizaru are actually very close to each other. So it's kind of like Marco versus Kizaru, Jozu versus Aokiji, and then Akainu versus Whitebeard. So then once the big man Whitebeard collapses, Marco bolts, and Kizaru says all it takes to lose is to be caught off guard. Based on that comment, it appears that he was on guard, obviously, before the heart attack, and he was on guard against Kizaru. In fact, if you zoom in really hard on one particular panel in that chapter, it appears that there's a tall Marine next to Marco who could easily be Kizaru. So even though there's a lot of off-screening in Marineford War, I think it's a very safe bet that Marco and Kizaru had several clashes, but again, they're all off-screen. If Whitebeard does not have a heart attack, then Kizaru and Marco, if they were fighting off-screen, that engagement continues for an extended amount of time because one couldn't get the upper hand over the other. That has always been my take on Marco versus Kizaru. It was Whitebeard's heart attack that set off a chain reaction of the Whitebeard's pirate defeat. So in this case, Kizaru, effectively speaking, needed outside assistance to do that much damage to Marco, and at no point could Kizaru himself actually dominate Marco. And folks want to argue that, okay, well, he wasn't trying. Well, neither was Big Mom. Big Mom, no hockey. At first, it's Prometheus, not her own skills or her own power. No Napoleon. As far as we can tell, no Zeus. And then, and Big Mom is such in a rush where she wants to go back into the battle. So Kizaru, people want to argue, Gwen wasn't trying. I'd argue the same for Marco, who wasn't going all out off the gate. But Big Mom is clearly not trying. This solidifies, even more so, the Yonko over the Admirals. There are folks out there that believe that the Admirals are equal to the Yonko. Some believe that the Admirals are actually superior than the Yonkos. And there is some evidence here or there for that. But the vast majority of the evidence goes against, I would argue. And this chapter, the evidence pile continues to pool in favor of the Yonko. If you're betting on a one-on-one Yonko versus Admirals, it is a much healthier and safer bet to bet on the Yonko. Absolutely. And also this way, think of, let's say, Luffy's reaction to Admirals and Yonko. At the end of Dressrosa, Luffy chooses to stand his ground against Fujitora. Mind you, he was still a bit wounded after fighting against Doflamingo, but Luffy was somewhat recovering, and Luffy chose to stand his ground against Fujitora at that moment. He said, I'm not going to turn away from folks like them. Hell no. And that's what he did. He stood his ground, he fought against Fujitora for a period of time. Were they going all out? No. But what's important here is the mentality of it. Luffy mentally said, I am going to stay right here and fight against this Admiral. Now we fast forward to Wano Country, when Luffy is stronger now after the Hokage Island experience, and he has a chance to go up against Big Mom, or in this case, Olin. And then Prisoner Minds, Luffy, the guy that wasn't going to run in the face of an Admiral, hauls booty, hauls ass, speed of light ass. He runs throughout the entirety of Udon from not even like a full power Big Mom, Olin. If you want to talk about a nerf, that is one hell of a nerf. Olin. And Luffy still, mentally speaking, didn't want to deal with Big Mom at that point in time. He chose to run away, despite Big Mom being a good chance for, in this case, Rio training. He chose to run. So even from the MC perspective, he, I would argue, views the Yonko as a bigger threat than the Admirals. So now doubling back to Big Mom and Marco, we see how Big Mom is actually ignoring Marco. She wants to go back to this battle, and she is a major player in this battle, at least on paper. So she can't be sidelined with Marco and Wanda and Carrot. These are minor squabbles. These are little squabbles. I'm done with this stuff. I can't be playing with the small guppies on the side. Hell no. So Marco can follow Big Mom and thwart Big Mom, I think, again, which I think is very possible. Big Mom, at times, is very incompetent, which is unfortunate, but that's the reality of the matter. She's very incompetent. She got thwarted by Jinbei and Robin. However, the power dynamic, I think, is already established. Kizaru could never dominate Marco. Even after a time skip. And let's say Kizaru got a bit stronger and Marco's the same power, I don't think Kizaru could still dominate Marco. But Big Mom could dominate Marco, alright? She's the queen bee of One Piece for a reason. On the flip side, this does also, in my mind, up the commanders, or at least in this case, of the people that are, let's say, first division commanders, at least the primary commander of a Yonko, people of Marco's ilk, I would argue. So for me, that's like a Katakuri, Ben Beckman, I would argue City of the Rain, I really would. People of that stature. Big Mom wanted to leave her quote-unquote soul weapons to deal with Marco. In this case, it could have been just Prometheus, but maybe Zeus and Prometheus. But the whole thing here is that we see Zeus in that clash on the side with the bandage over him. And it's very likely that Marco was fighting against Zeus off screen, but rather it was because of Brook a few chapters ago. Brook cut him in half again. So in this case, normally Big Mom, let's say, would have left Zeus and Prometheus to deal with Marco, but rather in the chapter, we just see Prometheus versus Marco, and Marco counters Prometheus wholesale. So on one foot, she didn't want to waste time with Marco and the Sulong and so on, but on the flip side, in order to defeat Marco, you need more than just your soul homies or your soul weapon. And I would argue, actually, that Zeus and Prometheus in their own right are actually pretty impressive. Of course, the main thing here being the fact that even Haki can't damage them. Essentially, they act like Logias in the pre-time skip, when Haki wasn't a thing, where you literally had to have a counter. In theory, someone like Kizaru could blast as many lasers as he wants to against someone like Prometheus or something like Zeus, and it's gonna do absolutely virtually no damage, because that's how they just function. And so it is very clear to see why Big Mom relies on them so often. And again, mind you, no Napoleon involved in this at all, not a single time. Now, comparing Queen and Marco against Big Mom is very intriguing. Marco got dominated, that's very, very true, I think. But Queen got his back blown out like he was a goddamn side hoe. What? It was ridiculous. 2 moves and that was it. And she was Olin, not even Big Mom, Olin. Now granted, Queen did bounce back and his zone ability does allow for that, probably because of the high recovery rate. And if things did or do escalate with Big Mom and Marco, that infinite generation of the Phoenix Flames is going to be a nuisance to deal with for damn sure. And the thing is too is that in Marco's case, there seems to be a lot more respect that Big Mom puts on Marco's name rather than Queen's name. Granted, to be fair, Big Mom did pass out almost immediately after she regained her memories. But in Marco's case, she says, like, literally, look, Marco, look here! If you want to kill me, you have to do it another time. I don't have the soul weapons to spare on you now. Big Mom does put respect on Marco's name, which to me does elevate the people of Marco's ilk a little bit higher. For me, I always believed that the Admirals are stronger than the First Division Commanders, and I still do. However, I've also said before that if they were to fight an all-out fight one-on-one, these folks, so people like Ben Beckman, people like a Katakuri, people like a Marco, people like a City of the Rain, potentially speaking, they would require an Admiral's utmost attention, and I would say they would win, yes, but I would say it would be a high diff to an extreme diff, meaning literally going all out against this person, like all out, blow for blow, toe for toe, full power, non-stop. That's how I personally view that fight dynamic between the Admirals and the First Division Commander type people. I mean, honestly, I would argue that in the case, let's say, Katakuri and Kizaru, I would argue that Katakuri wins in that fight. To this day, I still do, because Katakuri's Haki innately counters Kizaru's speed. And even though it's not canon, I do like referring to it because I think it's very possible, where if you look at Film Z, Zephyr Sensei says that Kizaru is someone that actually relies too much on his Zephyr power. Which again is non-canon, but at the same time, given his mindset, I don't think it's implausible. Yes, we do see him use the projection type Haki to block the Shockwave of Whitebeard, but it required all 3 of the Admirals to block the Shockwave, not just Kizaru himself. And then on top of that, it's just one Haki-based skill. We know that armor Haki hardening-wise, Katakuri is a cut above the rest, absolutely, with his Edge Mochi. And he was extraordinarily versatile in his powers and had Death Root Awakening. So for me, I would argue, again, to this day, he would lose someone like Aokiji back in the pre-time skip, someone like Akainu, someone like Fujitora, someone like Green Bull, in theory. But against Kizaru, he counters him, I think. And because he has that edge in ability with his very high and very potent observation Haki. Therefore, because again, in my mind, the Admirals will have to beat these people in an extremely difficult fight, if the difference is that close, then a counter flips it. So that being said, Marco absolutely is powerful, without question. We all know his power. We all saw it in Marineford War. And yet, despite his power, he could do nothing when Big Mom had him in his clutches. But then on the flip side, Big Mom could not rely on at least Prometheus and Prometheus alone to defeat someone like Marco. That required far more effort on her part. And Big Mom did not have the care or the time to say, you know what, Marco, I'm gonna take you seriously now. No. Another way you can look at this, for example, would let's say be Katakuri and Kaido. I recall when Luffy in the manga first got one-shotted by Kaido, a lot of folks say, okay, well, Katakuri would be done the same way because Luffy, quote-unquote, beat Katakuri. However, because of his abilities of the observation haki and how he is a special paramecia where he acts like a Logia, I don't see Kaido getting that first hit on Katakuri off. I really don't. And of course, at the time, this hypothetical was shaky, very shaky. But seeing Marco get some recognition by Big Mom in terms of power also elevates all those folks in that pool of power, including Katakuri. So it's now less shaky for me personally, where Katakuri could probably definitely actually dodge Kaido's first assaults, and Kaido just couldn't lazily one-shot Katakuri. Like, Kaido have to exert far more effort to actually defeat someone like Katakuri. Just how, again, in Big Mom's case, she just can't rely on Prometheus to actually beat Marco. No. So getting back to the Yonko and Admiral dynamic, Big Mom low-diffed Queen. And in the case of Marco, I would argue that it would be a mid-diff, where she'd have to exert more effort to actually defeat Marco compared to Queen. But in the case of the Admirals, I would argue most of the evidence points at that being an extreme diff. At least a high diff, but probably an extreme diff. So the amount of effort that each of these top brasses of power exert on first division commander people and that ilk is indicative of their overall power. The Yonko would have to exert less effort to defeat King, Katakuri, Marco, Shiryu, and Ben Beckman, as opposed to an Admiral where they have to exert a lot of effort and a lot of power to defeat folks of that caliber. So, on that front, the commanders, in my mind, get pushed up a bit, and then the Yonko solidify themselves even further to being the top, the cream of the crop, until, again, Emu or the Gorosei or the Return of Joe Boy, whatever wants to do on that one. Whatever. So, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, let me know your stance on the subject matter at hand. What has changed in your mind, if anything at all? Make sure to comment down below. I'll catch you guys and gals on the flip side. Peace out, and have a nice one.